In 2019, the United States had an estimated 2.3 million people behind bars, either awaiting trial or serving out their sentences in federal, state, or local prisons. That number is actually down slightly from 2018 and will almost certainly continue to fall as the country moves away from mass incarceration. But even with fewer people locked up than ever before, the United States still has the highest prison population of any developed country on earth. And what life is like for those incarcerated Americans is not at all what you'd expect. From the food they eat to the language they speak, here's what life is really like inside America's prisons. Oh, if you thought prison food looked bad in the movies, just wait till you see it in real life. Prisoners are often jokingly referred to as inmates because that is the closest thing that they have to a bed while locked up. They are given a mattress, a thin blanket, and a sheet, but no bed frame. This means that every night prisoners have to roll up their blankets and lie directly on the floor. The food served in American prisons isn't exactly gourmet dining either. In fact, it's so bad that many prisoners refuse to eat it and instead choose to survive off of the meager rations provided to them. Meals typically consist of generic foods that are prepared in bulk and served in large metal trays. Breakfast might be cold cereal with skim milk, stale fruit juice, and occasionally some eggs. Lunch and dinner usually feature some sort of meatless entree, like sloppy joes, vegetarian chili, or grilled cheese sandwiches, along with overcooked vegetables and underripe fruit. For many prisoners, this bland and unappetizing food becomes monotonous after a while, leading to decreased energy levels, difficulty concentrating, and other health problems. While some prison commissaries allow inmates to purchase name-brand cereals, condiments, and other groceries to supplement their meals, most prisoners can't afford to do so since their monthly allowance averages out to only about $15. But perhaps the most surprising fact about prison food is that, unlike what you might see on TV, prisoners don't typically eat with plastic utensils. Instead, they use real metal plates and silverware, which are washed and sanitized by other inmates in the prison kitchen. The U.S. prison system also provides prisoners with dental services, although these are usually only emergency services unless the prison has an on-site dentist or a dental hygienist. If a prisoner requires more extensive dental work, then they will likely be transferred to a medical prison where they can receive treatment from specialists. But if a prisoner has a cavity, they can rest assured that someone will take care of it, as ignoring dental problems can lead to severe pain and infection. Now, we all know that when you go to prison, you're going to have to make some lifestyle changes. You won't be able to watch Netflix anymore, and your weekends are probably going to be pretty boring. But there is another major change that most people do and realize. You have to learn a new language. That's right. There's a secret language spoken by prisoners all across the United States called Argot, or sometimes prison English. Argot is a mixture of slang, altered pronunciation, and code words used by prisoners to communicate with each other without the guards understanding what they were saying. It evolved during the 19th century, when prisoners began to notice that the guards were eavesdropping on them. So they started using code words and phrases to keep their conversations secret. Today, there are thousands of Argot terms in common usage, like calling a cellmate your wife, or using the word fish to mean snitch. Learning Argot is essential for a prisoner's survival, since it allows them to maintain their dignity and safety while incarcerated. However, it can be difficult to learn, especially for older prisoners who may not be as adept with language or new technology. Some prisoners who have trouble picking up Argot might find themselves at risk of violence from other inmates who do untrust them or view them as a threat. When it comes to exercising in prison, inmates have two main options. They can either spend time in the prison yard or they can hit the gym. But don't picture this gym like the one that you're used to. It doesn't have treadmills, weight machines, or even free weights. It's basically a big room with a basketball court, some pull-up bars, and a few pieces of cardio equipment, like stationary bikes and rowing machines. But if none of those sound appealing, and you'd rather just stay indoors, there are plenty of other activities to choose from. Chess is a popular pastime among prisoners, as it requires little equipment and can be played with minimal supervision. Many prisons also have libraries where inmates can borrow books and magazines or even participate in literacy programs. For those who prefer more solitary activities, there's always pencil and paper games like Sudoku or crossword puzzles. Of course, there's also always music. Many prisons allow inmates to purchase radios or music players from the commissary, although they're usually only allowed to listen to pre-approved stations or playlists. Finally, there's the option of watching TV. Most prisons have common rooms with televisions that inmates can watch during their free time. But the selection of channels is limited to basic cable stations. Believe it or not, education is taken seriously in American prisons. That's right. Inmates are encouraged to pursue their education while locked up, and many take advantage of the opportunity. High school equivalency classes are offered in most prisons, and inmates can earn their GEDs by passing a series of tests. Some prisons also offer college courses, although these are less common and typically only available to inmates who have access to a computer lab. And many inmates take education seriously because they know that a good education is essential for finding a job and staying out of prison once they re-released. The truth is that a lack of education is one of the leading causes of recidivism. In fact, studies have found that inmates who earned their GEDs are 43% less likely to return to prison within 3 years of their release date. Not only does education reduce the chances of returning to prison, but it also gives inmates something productive to focus on while they're locked up. After all, there's only so much chess and music listening an inmate can do before going stir-crazy. Despite the efforts of prison officials to rehabilitate inmates through education, it's not all sunshine and roses. Many inmates face significant barriers to learning, including illiteracy, lack of motivation, and limited access to educational resources. Additionally, some prison guards and administrators are resistant to providing inmates with educational opportunities, believing that they should be punished, not rewarded. As a result, many inmates never receive the education they need to find a job and reintegrate into society successfully. If you've ever wondered what happens to a prisoner's personal belongings after they're locked up, the answer might surprise you. Unlike Hollywood movies would have you believe, most prisons don't allow inmates to bring personal items like TVs, video games, and luxury toiletries with them when they're incarcerated. However, prisoners are allowed to bring in a few personal items that can make their stay in prison more comfortable, such as photographs of family and friends, playing cards, and stationery. These items are typically held in the inmate's individual cell and are subject to search and confiscation by prison officials at any time. However, there are some items that prisoners aren't allowed to bring with them to prison, including weapons, drugs, and any item that could be used as a weapon. Any prohibited items brought into the prison will be confiscated, and the inmate may be subject to disciplinary action. Despite these restrictions, many prisoners still try to smuggle prohibited items into the prison because they can make life behind bars more bearable. For example, some inmates may bring in drugs to help them cope with the stress of prison life, while others may bring in weapons to protect themselves from other inmates. If you've ever wondered how prisoners keep themselves entertained when they're not working or participating in organized activities, the answer is usually pretty simple. They play cards. Card games are a popular pastime for prisoners because they require little more than a deck of cards and a table. They're also relatively easy to learn, meaning that new inmates can quickly get up to speed and start playing with the other prisoners. Some of the most popular card games played by prisoners include Go Fish, Crazy Eights, and Hearts. Prisoners also enjoy playing poker, blackjack, and other casino-style games, although these games are more likely to be played with other inmates as dealers, rather than with a standard deck of cards. Of course, there's always the option of playing solitaire, which is a great way for inmates to pass the time when they're feeling introspective or just want some quiet. Just don't expect them to share their winnings with you. As you can see, life in an American prison is not nearly as glamorous as the movies would have you believe. In fact, it's often downright depressing. But for those lucky enough to make it out alive, the experience can be a valuable lesson in humility, resilience, and the importance of second chances. Thanks for watching.